Hello and welcome to the Discover Virginia Beach podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Trahan, your tour guide to the Virginia Beach area. If this is your first time listening, I am so glad you found this show. Each week, I publish a new interview with locals ranging from musicians, government officials, CEOs, artists, and much more. And my aim is simple. It's to help you discover, define, and then go out and do exactly what you're looking for during your next vacation, relocation, or outing to the Virginia Beach area. And if you're looking to join in on the conversation, take part in monthly giveaways, and get your hands on my custom event calendars, head on over to Facebook and send me a friend request. That's Joseph Trahan. And check out my Facebook group of nearly 50,000 fans of the Virginia Beach area. Don't worry about writing anything down. The links for each episode, along with the Facebook groups, will be in the description below and also in the show notes. All right, here's the show. Today, I am super pumped because we have Betty Owens with us today, the heart and soul behind Simple Southern Getaways, and also happens to be the owner and operator as well. Betty, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, well, we understand you are a proud Southern belle from Georgia. I'd love to know what brought you to the Virginia Beach area, and of course, what got you to stick around and build your life and your business here.
So, yes, I grew up in Georgia, so I lovingly call myself a Southern belle. My husband joined the military about 11 years ago, and our first duty station was in Norfolk, Virginia. So that's the way we got ourselves from Georgia to Virginia. And we actually were stationed in Norfolk twice. And currently we are stationed in North Carolina, but we still have our vacation homes in Norfolk. And I visit them very frequently, throughout the month to make sure everything is checked on, make sure our guests are taken care of.
Absolutely, especially as a CEO and of course a brand ambassador, for one of the largest home rental softwares out there. You definitely want to set a good precedent for those types of experiences. What branch in the military?
Of course, he's in the Navy. I mean,
Navy.
everybody has to come to Norfolk at least once in their time. Yeah,
At
so he's
least
in
once.
Navy.
How'd you guys get to go twice? Was it something he picked the second time, or is his skill set
Well,
EOD or something?
the Navy always tells you have a choice, and then they give you your options. But then sometimes it ends up being Norfolk, or Norfolk. So which one would you like to choose? So the first time he was on a ship, he was on the USS Baton, and the second time he was with one of the helicopter squadrons there on the base. So, and you never know, in another 2 years, we may be back in Norfolk again.
I love it. I love it. Well, Betty, we are here to talk about you, and I appreciate you mentioning that segue from the wonderful military that brought you here. And we're so glad they did, because you provided a wonderful service. But before we get into, the day in and day out of your operations, I'd love to know from you. I mean, looking back at your career, you've had a relatively diverse career, from a dental hygienist to then hosting vacation rentals. Can you share with us some of those pivotal experiences that helped shape your journey into what you're doing now?
Yes. So I did practice dental hygiene for over 20 years, and I last practiced in Virginia Beach. And then 2020 happened, and we decided that I was going to hang up my scalers and call it quits on the dental hygiene department. But before then, we have always owned rental property since around 1999. We bought our first property in Georgia. We had a small little rental house there, just a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, but it was able to get our feet wet into the rental industry. And then we became accidental landlords. So we have one of those, houses during 2008 that wouldn't sell. And so we decided to turn it into a rental. And then we subsequently had another house that wouldn't sell, and we turned it into a long-term rental. So we've had 3 long-term rentals. And then we decided in 2017 that it was really hard for me to maintain those rentals living away from Georgia. So we decided to sell the rentals. And I was talking to my dad one day, and he said, you live near the beach and you love the beach. Why don't you get a beach house? And I was like, okay, I think I've heard of that thing called Airbnb, but I'm not really sure. So we started looking into that in 2017, and we found a realtor there, Miss Christy Allen with Judy Boone Realty. And she was like, I think I can find you guys a place that you could put up on Airbnb. And she said, I'm not really like familiar with it either. So we started looking and we found our first little place on Willoughby Spit that we call Baydream Cottage. So that is how we started off with our first short-term rental. So we went from long-term to short-term, and we really didn't know what we were doing. We just kind of jumped in there with, like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to see if it works out. And it did. We were so excited. We started off at Labor Day of 2018, and we haven't went one weekend without being booked. So we've
Wow.
been very successful with that one. And then after we did Baydream Cottage, we're like, you know what? We think we kind of got this thing. We've got this kind of figured out,
Sure. Yeah.
We decided
Got
that,
some momentum
maybe,
going.
yeah, we're like, maybe we need to get electronic locks because, trying to get a key from person to person was a little difficult. And maybe we need to add like a camera so we can kind of see who's coming and going. So there were all those little things that we kind of had to work through in the beginning. So we talked to our realtor again, and she said, well, I know of a house that's being built over in East Ocean View. And that is how we got Bay Lake Escape. So it was a brand new house, and we actually got to be on the ground floor level of being able to build this house from the ground up. And so we opened that one in the spring of 2019. So that was our second short-term rental there in Norfolk. And then in 2020, we got the little bug again. And like everybody did, they wanted to go up to the mountains. Everybody was
Sure.
tired of being at home with COVID. And so we found a little condo on Beach Mountain in North Carolina. So that is our third vacation rental, and that's Beach Bliss. And it's just a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo on Beach Mountain, but it is a very magical place to go to.
Wow, what a journey, Betty. I love this. So take me back to the 90s here. So 1999, you guys just stumbled upon this property and you're like, hey, we're going to do long-term rental because it's going to make more sense cash flow wise.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind me asking, I'm assuming you're working with some VA loans here to help you out with that, or is that more so just like, hey, outside the military loans, you're just kind of taking care of it as is?
Yeah. So in 1999, my husband hadn't even dreamt of being in the military.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
yeah. So this was just a regular commercial loan, the 20% down and all that good kind of stuff. But we were in a beautiful little town in Georgia, and this little 2-bedroom, 1-bath came up near where my mother-in-law lived. And we have, always been interested in rentals. And I think my husband kind of has that background and that mindset of, having rentals as, passive income.
Sure.
And so we're like, this will be a great opportunity, cute little house, cute little street. And that's how we got our first little long-term rental was through that opportunity.
I love that. And that's how most of them start, at least the good ones. I think, not online looking at an estate you've never been to, but like looking in your neighborhood, seeing what's available around you, talking to a local professional, local realtor to kind of guide and navigate you through that. Betty, I'm very curious because I myself am a realtor, and I've been in the market only a couple of years. So I don't have anything to compare it to other than the COVID whirlwind that we had.
Yeah.
Take me back to the 20% days, the fixed rate mortgages with balloon payments. What is one or two biggest differences between the marketplace then and now when it comes to buying long-term and we'll say long-term and short-term rental properties, if you're cool with tackling both?
Yeah. So I think at that time with the 20% down, it was just a normal type of deal. It's just kind of like what everybody did. If you bought a rental property, you always put the 20% down, and it was something that you would have to save for and you'd have to prepare for. And so we kind of knew that from the beginning going into it. We didn't do a balloon payment on anything because my dad was always like, you don't want to ever do balloon payments,
Yeah, no.
So we just listened to dad on a lot of our knowledge that we had. So I guess a lot that we learned, we did learn a lot from books. My husband's always been a fan of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so we learned a lot from that, but then just a lot of wisdom from my dad. My granddad had been into rental properties. He had built homes and then rented them. So, I always had that little background of this like rental in the, in the back of my mind, but never had like done it for ourselves. So, you know, I guess you don't know what you don't know, and you're just
Sure.
young and you're just excited and you just want to buy something. And so we just saved. And once we were able to save, then we were able to get that first property. And then we did a lot of the remodeling ourselves because had been a rental and it was in really, really bad shape. So we had to come in and paint and fix the walls and do all the replacing of, pieces of wood floor that had gotten messed up and new cabinets. And luckily it was just one bath because,
Sure. Right.
baths can get kind of expensive, but we
Oh
were able
yeah.
to learn a lot about plumbing and refinishing floors and what's good paint and what's not good paint. So it was a very good learning experience for us. It was like our little test house.
Wow, how much fun is that? That sounds like so much fun, especially with your spouse when you guys are on board. It's something you're both interested in, and you guys can kind of like figure out together. It's kind of like a hobby
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely. And I think also looking at Zillow and things like that got to be a hobby. We try to see, okay, what houses are available now. And that was always a lot of fun for us.
Oh, sure. I bet eating ice cream, analyzing deals, in the evening is definitely a great way to bond with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Love it. Love it. So, Betty, flash forward, we come to 2017, correct? And you're like,
Yes.
hey, beach house. Why not
Hmm.
Virginia Beach? Why did you go Norfolk? I know why you went Norfolk, but for our listeners who are like, why would you do Virginia Beach? Would you mind walking us through that process?
So at the time, you would think we didn't go to Virginia Beach because the rules and regulations, but there were none. It was like
Right.
this wild
Wild
market.
West. Yep.
Yeah, it was the Wild West. Anybody could do anything. And even our realtor, had very little knowledge of short-term rentals at that time because it always seemed like that you had these big rental industries, like Sandbridge Rentals, and they would take care of everything. You just bought the house and you put it in their system and they would go with it. But we really liked Norfolk because we felt like the price range was something that we could afford with our budget and still be able to make money. We had two scenarios because we weren't really sure about short-term rentals. We first bought a house as a long-term rental. So our bedroom cottage was bought in the mindset of a long-term rental. So that was our
Sure.
first our first thing there. So we thought, okay, if we can do short-term rental, that'll be great. But if not, we're still going to be profitable as a long-term rental. And I think a lot of people get into the mindset, oh, I just want to buy it for a short-term rental. But what if the but happens, what if 2020 happens and you can't operate as a short-term rental because they've, shut everything down because of COVID? And then, or what if you get tired of having a vacation rental and you want to switch it back to a long-term rental? Are those numbers still going to work for a long-term rental? And so Norfolk was a little bit more easier on the pocketbook than Virginia Beach was at that time. And now it's the tables have totally turned with 2020 and the prices increasing. And but yeah, that's why we chose Norfolk. And we also wanted to be close to the base. We wanted to have that accessibility for families that were coming to visit their sailors. And we just felt like that Norfolk was a great fit for us.
Yeah, especially with the base location and also the beach. And a lot of people don't know this, Betty, but us locals have the privilege of knowing we have over 16 different beach experiences across the Hampton Roads area, from out in Franklin, Smithfield, all the way across not almost said Chesapeake, uh, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and the peninsula side as well. When
Mhm.
it comes to, beach houses in general, what would you say is probably the biggest misconception about buying a beach house?
I think a lot of people want to go in there and they want to have something like picture perfect beach house, like this quintessential beach house. When we drove past Bedroom Cottage, we literally just drove past it because we had the address with our realtor, but we couldn't see it. It was so covered in trees and vines and just all this debris that was outside, chain link fence and a wooden fence and pampas grass and all this stuff. And so I think trying to look for a house that's like that diamond in the rough,
Sure.
they always say the worst house in the best neighborhood. And that's exactly what Bedroom Cottage was that the it
Yeah.
was the worst house, but it was in the best neighborhood because it's 2 blocks from the beach. And when we pulled up and we walked inside, we're like, this is it. I mean, it wasn't like perfectly done. It wasn't like anything that you picture in your mind off Pinterest, but we knew that we could make it work. And we knew that with some elbow grease and a lot of work outside that we could make it the beautiful place that it is now. So I think don't discount those places that you just are like, I can't do this. This is just too much, because that might be your diamond in the rough.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for the consumer side, when it comes to purchasing or renting an Airbnb, looking outside of Virginia Beach, although I always recommend you check out Virginia Beach, at least at
Mm-hmm.
the first search, or two, definitely lots of options as well. Betty, for our listeners who are looking to learn more about your Airbnb, would love to shift gears here with you. Would you mind walking us through the current locations you have? I know you mentioned them before. Feel free to reiterate them, share the address or the location again. And then, of course, what type of amenities and features the guests can expect when they come to stay at your getaways.
Okay. So we have Bedroom Cottage, and that is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. It is located on Willoughby Spit, which is kind of like a little peninsula off of Norfolk. It was actually, they say that the spit was formed by a hurricane however many 100 years ago. So it is literally sand underneath your feet when you go into Willoughby. It's a beautiful, just like the quintessential little beach town, very eclectic. You're going to have a lot of different styles of houses, and you still have a lot of people who live there that are long-term residents. Most of them are retirees from the base, so people who have worked here and then have just fell in love with the area and they just stay there. So that's most of our neighbors. So it does have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. We have a bunk room, which has 4 bunk beds in it. So that's very popular with the kids. And we
Yes.
have a lot of people who book and they say, well, we were searching through Airbnb and we saw this one, and the kids were like, Mom, that's got bunk beds. So we have a bunk room, and then we have 2 bedrooms with queen beds in them. We try to offer just a very clean aesthetic, very light touches of beaches in our decor, but a very clean and comfortable place to stay. Bedroom Cottage has a beautiful front porch, and we have wicker rocking chairs and a little settee outside, and we have a little outdoor dining. We also offer a camp style grill outside. So bring your own charcoal and we'll provide the grill tools for you. And then we also have beach chairs, and we have beach toys, and we have boogie boards and all those fun things that you would expect for coming at the beach. And like I said, we're just 2 blocks away. So most of your entertainment at Beijing Cottage, besides watching television if you want to, is going to the beach. And that's the fun part about it. And it's not far from the shops, very close to Harris Teeter, which is our closest grocery store. So that makes it very convenient. A lot of our guests like to order their groceries ahead. So they'll order them ahead, put them in online, and then just pick them up and head over to the house. So
Oh, that's a great
yeah,
tip. Great tip right there. But
that is Daydream.
this is just for the summer months, right? You can't visit during the winter months.
Oh, yes. So actually, my favorite time of year is spring and fall. And I guess if I had to just pick one, though, I definitely would pick the fall. I think that Virginia is just beautiful in the fall. And you can take little excursions into Norfolk on the beautiful houses, and the waterfront are just wonderful places to visit. And we're open all year long, and we're gearing up for Christmas. So as you can see my little holiday shirt
Love
here.
it. Love it.
So we go to the nines and we decorate for the holidays, because most of our guests that are coming in this month and actually at Thanksgiving are coming in for the holidays to visit their sailors. So we want to make sure it feels like home for them. So we provide those little holiday touches for them when they get there. So they really enjoy that.
Wow, that's so cool. So you
Yeah.
decorate for the holidays. Feels like
Yes.
Christmas or a holiday, Hanukkah, however you want to phrase it. It's
However
for the
they want to,
holidays.
however they want
They're
to
all
use
good
it.
to go.
Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of families that will come in at Thanksgiving because they can't see their sailor at Christmas. So they'll
Sure.
have a Thanksmas. They'll have Thanksgiving and Christmas together.
I love it. I love it. Well, Benny, thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you have another location here in Norfolk as well, correct? Would you mind sharing with us that one as well?
Yes, so that is Bay Lake Escape, and that is a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath home. It looks like it's kind of like the style of the houses in Charleston. It's a 2-story with double-decker balconies on the front. It also offers a little backyard, like courtyard area with a fire pit, and it also has a charcoal grill as well. Inside, we have a nice big sofa so everybody can enjoy time around the television. Both of our homes have big farmhouse style tables that my daddy has built for these houses. He has a farm in Georgia called Cedar Lake Farm. And so he has a sawmill and he custom made these tables for us to go into our
Oh,
rental
wow.
houses. So it's nice for family gatherings, and everybody always comments, they're like, where did you get the beautiful table from? So it's also a newer home. So it was built in 2019, where Bay Dream Cottage was built in 1986. So it's a little bit older. And we have the bedrooms are all upstairs. So we have 2 queen bedrooms upstairs. And then we have the bunk room as well. And it's a full with a twin oversize. My little puppies just came in.
I'm getting excited to check out these Airbnbs. Betty, thanks for diving into those details, and I'll be sure to include a link to your profile, and also with your permission, the link to the Airbnbs down in the
Yes.
description below. That way folks listening can go and check it out and see that it's not just a beach time for the summer season. It's a beach time for all year round.
Yes.
Betty, I'm really curious because when you're dealing with the public, any type of public, funny things happen, right?
Mhm.
Whether someone loses a key, it gets lost in the sand, they can't find their dog. But for you, what's the funniest or most interesting Airbnb story to date?
Let's see. We've had some very exciting ones,
Happy,
some that are not G rated.
whatever you're comfortable sharing.
I think the sorry, my dog is
No,
running
that's
out from
okay.
underneath my foot. Sorry about that. Um, let's see. I just can't think of anything offhand like funny. I'm sorry. I don't know. I can't think
No,
of
that's
anything. I
okay.
mean,
That's okay.
I think the thing that I enjoy most is just having families come back and saying, wow, we had such a wonderful time together and we can't wait to come back next year. And we become like a family tradition for them. And I think that's, to me,
That's
that's what
interesting.
brings,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what brings such, joy to my heart, is that, we don't do this just to make money, because it's a lot of work just to do it to make money. You really have to have a heart and a passion for hosting. And I think when they come back and they say, oh, we just love it, and our kids want to come back here next year. And oh, I do have a good one. We had a couple that got engaged at our house,
Oh,
and they
wow.
sent me the picture of her engagement ring. And I didn't know what was happening, or I would have sent like a special treat or something for them. And they're
Sure.
like, thank you. We'll always remember Bay Lake Escape as the place where we, have our first start, and we're going to get
Aw.
married. And so thank you so much, like, for the hospitality. So yeah, I think that was the sweetest moment that I had.
That is so cool because you don't normally get that everywhere you go, which is fine. You have B plus service, but to be able
Mhm.
to offer that as your full-time hospitable nature that you I mean that's who you are, Betty.
Yeah.
You started with hygiene, working with people and caring for them, and now you're doing that above and beyond with the Airbnb, just to provide that community, which is why we love this area so much and why I can't stop
Yes.
talking about it with all of our guests here on the show. But this is really truly a place that is very special for a lot of people, even those who aren't here for an extended period of time. They may be here for a weekend or just visiting, for a friend's miss, or a
Mhm.
think miss or anything like that. But wow, we
Yeah, it
really,
is a very special place. It seems like there's so many people that have so many connections to Hampton Roads that me from Georgia, I didn't know about. But
sure.
now that we've been hosting here for 5 years, grandma and grandpa live here, and my aunt and uncle were stationed here. And there's so much of this connection that comes in through the Hampton Roads area. So people are not just coming for vacation, they're coming to visit their families as well, which is really neat.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. Incredible.
Mhm.
Well, Betty, we really appreciate you sharing all that. And I know, looking at the time, I know you got to get back to it because there is a lot that goes into running an Airbnb. But
Yes.
before we just say that and run over it, would you mind walking us through a day in your life, managing and hosting Airbnbs, what that typically looks like, and maybe just, what an average day looks like for you?
Yes, I would love to do that. So, as well as an Airbnb host, I'm also an Airbnb ambassador. So, that means that I help new hosts get started. And I've been doing that for 2 years now. So, there's about 120 ambassadors for the United States. So, I was blessed to be able to be asked to be one of the ambassadors. And so that takes up a good majority of my time as well. So, usually in the mornings, get up, have some breakfast with my family. My husband loves for me to cook for him bacon and eggs every morning. So that's kind of our thing. And then I get started at looking at my calendar. So I want to make sure, let's see who's checking in and who's checking out. Make sure that we use an app called Turno is what we schedule our cleaners with. We make sure that the app is all synced with Airbnb and make sure that the cleaners have what they need. My cleaners are great for letting me know. I use Mary Lee cleaning service, and she'll send me a little text and she'll say, hey, for this visit, we're going to need paper towels, toilet paper, soap, shampoo, da 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 da.
Wow.
So she
So
tells
she'll
me
go
what
through
they
the
need.
list of the
Yeah,
amenities
she'll
that you
she'll
still
give me an
need.
inventory list. She's awesome. And so then I use Walmart Plus. They are wonderful. And I put my order in and it's there within, 2 hours while they're still there cleaning. So they get all their supplies that they need. So that's a really big thing. It's just making sure coordination with the cleaners and supplies. And then also having coordination with our yard man and our garbage man to help us with taking the garbage out on Tuesdays, bringing it back in on Wednesdays, and then having our grass cut. And this time of year, the leaves blown off of everything.
Right.
So it's nice and pretty for the guests when they get there. And then I usually sit down and I work on pricing. So I'm always, one of the things with Airbnb is the algorithms. You always want to keep the algorithms moving because if it looks like your account is stale, your listings don't get booked as much. So if you're an
Sure.
Airbnb host, if you can play with those algorithms like pricing, changing your description, adding in titles underneath all of your photos, those are the things that shows Airbnb that you're an active host. And those are the things that get your listing pushed up to the top above, 300 or 400 other listings that people are looking at. So I usually play with the pricing every day, just looking through to make sure that my listings, because Airbnb does change. We just had a huge winter release a couple of weeks ago, just making sure that everything is checked off as far as my amenities, make sure there's nothing that, looks awry on my listing. So I'm
Sure.
constantly looking at that. And then sending in the messages. So I have automatic messages set up on Airbnb. And if you're a host and you don't have automatic messages set up, that is one thing you need to go ahead and just sit down and do because it makes your life so much easier because you know that you're going to have the guests get a message as soon as they book, thanking them for booking. And they're going to send one the day before they check in and when they check in and the day before they check out and when they check out. And all these messages, it just helps to make it more streamlined. And I've had so many guests say, wow, your messaging and communication was wonderful because there's some hosts that just don't communicate and
Sure.
guests want that. They want communication and you want to have communication from them. So that's kind of like an average day for me in the Airbnb life. And, I've been doing it 5 years now, so I feel like I'm on autopilot. So a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
sounds
it
like
just,
you have your systems down and then of course your
yes.
automation set up as well, which
Mhm.
is phenomenal for the guest experience, right? Because they benefit. I mean, it doesn't as long as it gets done, right? It gets done well, it
Right.
gets done correctly, and they're communicated with. It just allows for a more better experience instead of you having to text, every client, during each meal of your day.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you don't worry about forgetting something. So before I had the automated messages set up, I would always say, "Oh, did I forget to, send so and so a message?" And I don't have to worry about that. I know it's automatically been sent. And then as far as my ambassador program, my ambassadors text me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, unfortunately, at night I get a lot of text messages, but that's fine because it's normal questions like, I have this guest checking in and I'm nervous about this and what do I do about this? And they're just simple questions that they ask me that I can answer, but it keeps them from having to go and be on hold with customer service because
Sure.
they know they have access to me. And the way the ambassador program works, it's only for new hosts. So a new host with a brand new listing can reach out to me as an ambassador, and I have all the information on my website, and I walk them through getting their listing up and running, and then I'm their customer service support as much as I can support them. If there's something I can't support, then I'll give them the customer service link, but I help them to get on the right road with Airbnb and help them to feel successful and confident on becoming an Airbnb host. And it's 100% free. Airbnb does pay me a small commission once they host their first guest, but there's no cost for them out of pocket.
Wow. Incredible, Betty. Giving on the Airbnb side and the customer service side, we really appreciate all that you're doing for the community to enhance the overall experience. Very, very awesome.
Thanks.
With that said, Betty, I'd love to dive into our last section for today. It's our rapid fire questions. These questions are quick and fast. You can answer with as much or as little detail as you would like. Are you ready?
I hope so. I never did well on this in third grade, so
You're going to do great, Betty. You're going to do great.
okay.
We'll start with an easy one for you. Favorite spot in Norfolk to visit? Let's just say for a night out.
Oh, I love the Waterside District. It's beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you take the ferry as well, or do you just hang out exclusively on Waterside?
Oh no, I love the ferry. That is like so beautiful, and ride it over to Portsmouth.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Love it, love it. Do you prefer garden therapy or beach relaxation? If you had to pick one.
Oh, so I'm a big gardening girl. That's my second passion besides Airbnb. So I'm gonna have to say garden therapy.
Garden therapy. Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. Although Norfolk Beach is a little upset, I think you guys can work through
I
it.
know.
Do you prefer Moodin Point Park, or boating on Pretty Lake?
I think I'll have to go for the boating. We've had a lot of fun boating trips. We've had two different boats. We've had a big boat and a little boat. So I definitely would say boating in Norfolk is lots of fun.
Absolutely, especially with Destination Zero. You could literally go anywhere. I mean, you're stealing the slogan from Tidewater Community College. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and even if you didn't have a boat, a canoe or a kayak is super fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So many docks to get your boat in the water for. Would you prefer playing piano or traveling with the family?
Mm. So I think I'm going to have to choose traveling with the family. I do like playing the piano, but definitely traveling with my family. And with being in the military, we've gotten so many different fun opportunities to go to Italy. I think I've been there 3 times, and I'm hoping we'll have lots more opportunities over the next 9 years before my husband retires.
Ooh, love it, love it. That's actually my next question. Dream destination for your next vacation in general, but we'll change it since you said Italy. We'll say your next destination if you were going to get an Airbnb anywhere in the world. Where would you get your next rental property from?
Oh, where would I get my next rental property from? We've actually been looking in the Outer Banks. So we
Ooh,
would love like maybe Nags Head area, something like that. But yeah, we'd like to have Outer Banks. It's just beautiful out there.
yeah, absolutely. OBX it's definitely underrated. Not as good as Virginia Beach.
Yeah,
It's a close second. It's a very close second. Next to Florida. They're kind of neck and neck there.
exactly.
Uh, Betty, what's a book that's inspired you? It could be a recent read or something that's just kind of stuck with you throughout your time and career in your life.
I think probably when we read Rich Dad Poor Dad together, me and my husband,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that one has been very influential. It was just the way that people think about business. It just opens your mind up to just to a different world. And there's so many possibilities with the business world.
yeah, absolutely. So many different ways to define the different terms, that are digestible for folks to understand.
Right. Yeah. I think we've enjoyed too, like we started listening to Bigger Pockets in 2012 or 2013, somewhere around there from a long time ago. And that was really, it changed our mindset a lot with our business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very practical tips on bigger pockets for sure. And
Mhm.
of course,
Yes.
for all of our listeners who are like, their ears are peaked and like, I want to do
Yeah.
Airbnb, I want to do bigger pockets. Just get a hold of Betty. She's an Airbnb ambassador and she can take the reins for you for there. All right,
Yes, I
last
can
one for you,
definitely help.
Betty. Last one for you, Betty. Best piece of advice for new vacation rental hosts.
I think a lot of it is just, it sounds so simple and cliche, but just getting started. I meet so many people that just have that analysis paralysis and they just try to analyze every single thing. And sometimes you just have to jump in there and do it. And I think that was the best learning thing for us was just jumping in there and doing it. Having me by your side as your ambassador, kind of as your little a life jacket as you float along, but just jumping in there and doing it because it's definitely has been life changing for me and for our family.
I love it. Great, great piece of advice. Betty, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to roll out the red carpet for you to give you an opportunity to share any final words or any other thoughts you might have to share with the audience before we go. The floor is all yours.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much, Joe, for having me. And we would love to host you at our Simple Southern Getaways in Norfolk, Virginia, or on Beach Mountain in North Carolina. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at my website. It's simplesouthernflair.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you to our dedicated listeners for checking out another episode of the Discover Virginia Beach podcast. We hope you get out there and book a stay with Betty and come check us out, hang out here in Norfolk, and come discover everything the Virginia Beach area has to offer. Until next time,